One of the useful things about variables is that you can ask the user to supply you with one using input. So to just make sure I understand what it is I'm doing when I come back to it later, I'm going to just put a little comment here on the top. Okay, so create an input for the user. Okay, and the keyword is input. Now, you do have to use brackets, and you do have to now provide some text so that the user knows what it is you basically want them to provide for you. So if I just want them, for example, to tell me how old they are, I could just say, what is your age? Okay. Now, when I run that, you can see in the console it's asking me for my age, but when I type in a number and press enter, nothing really happens with that. But we can see how it works. We're being asked for something, we're providing something, but then the program ends because there isn't anything for the thing that we typed in to so there's nowhere for it to go. So what we need to do then is convert this into a variable. So we could just, for example, call it age. Now, sometimes it's useful to be a little bit more specific, as we said before, with some of these variable names. Try to avoid using spaces. Sometimes special characters are problematic as well. There are a couple of standard ways of doing this using various different types of notation. Personally, I just tend to just stick to all lowercase and use underscores to split up any different words rather than using spaces. So I could just call this user age, for example. Now, sometimes you'll see people do it like this by just capitalizing the next word. Sometimes you'll see it like this. I mean, there are various different ways of doing this. I would suggest you just pick one that you like and stick to that way so that there is consistency throughout your program. So what we've done now is we have defined a container so that when the user tells us the number, it's got somewhere to store it. Now, we won't know that it's stored it in there because it's just in memory. We can't see it. So in order to see what's actually being stored, we need to print to the console user age so that this shell at the bottom there will show us, what's input. So what I might also want to do here is just add a bit of a space because it was very close. You can see here it's almost like a continuation of the question. So I'm going to put a space in there. So if I now run this, what is your age? Got a nice bit of a space. I can put my age in there, press enter, and then because it's printing the contents of user age, and the user has pressed enter on 22, user age is now equal to 22. So we can begin to do interesting things with these kind of variables. And it works the same in graphical interfaces. You usually have an entry box and someone types something in the box, and then that gets stored in a variable. So these are useful things. Now, we could expand this print out a little bit so it makes a bit more sense. Okay, your age is, okay, space, and then we need a comma. So you'll notice this bit that's green, that's just same as we did before, that's just printing some text onto the shell, and then it's going to, after the comma, also print the user age, which is why I've left a little bit of a space here so it's not too close together. So when we run this again, what is your age? 22. Your age is 22. Now, if we wanted to, we could also create a variable that said your age is, and then we could just print those two variables. So there's various different ways of doing this, and sometimes one works better than the other. And as you get better at doing this kind of stuff, you'll start doing it in ways that make sense in the context of the rest of the code and the rest of the program you're actually trying to write. Okay, so that's basically how you can get the user to provide you with some input.